Welcome, everyone, to this session of Administrator Issues and Updates on February 4th, 2025. County Administrator Schmidt, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioner West is on his way. Roll call. Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Fireside.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Roberts.
Here. Thank you, Administrator Schmidt. Would you please introduce the first agenda item?
Yes, thank you. The first item is a legislative update, recreational vehicle fee increase. Tonya Holowetzky, Director of Public and Government Affairs, will present. There's a memo in your packet. Go ahead, please, Tonya.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here this morning to seek your position on House Bill 3209 and whether to provide the county's logo for a letter of support requested by the Oregon Recreation and Parks Association. Abandoned RVs, as you know, are considered hazardous waste for several reasons, and currently the county bears the cost of RV removal and remediation. State funding that is proposed in this House bill may defray some of the local costs. The bill would also result in increased funds to county parks. Clackamas County has been asked by the association to consider participating in a logo letter in support of House Bill 3209. The bill proposes to increase registration fees for inflation. Fees were last increased in 2001, and index for future increases. These revenues are currently shared by the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department and counties to support state and county parks. It would also establish an abandoned RV disposal fee surcharge on registration fees and recreational vehicle trip permit fees. These revenues would be deposited into an account to help reimburse the cost of towing and disposing of abandoned vehicles, and the new surcharges would sunset after 10 years. Since we submitted this memorandum, we did learn a few more details that I'd like to share with you at this point. County parks would not have any fee increases as a result of this bill should it pass, and all fees associated with the bill are charged at the point of registration with the state. The county does not collect county vehicle registration fees on RVs. It is not permitted by state law. And Clackamas County Parks does charge RV owners for the use of parks, so camping day use fees, and the additional of the RV surcharges proposed in the bill does not affect the county's ability to increase park fees. So in your packet there is the letter, the support letter, and in it outlines the specific fees. And the fees are assessed at the time of vehicle registration and collected and managed by the Oregon Department of Transportation. The League of Oregon Cities, Washington County, Hood River County, Jackson County, and Lane County are participating in the logo letter, and PGA recommends that the county support House Bill 3209.
All right, thank you. Any of my colleagues like to share thoughts? Concerns? Hearing none, would any of my colleagues, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Martha.
I just wanted to ask, we don't have any information where the Association of Oregon Counties is on this?
I am not aware. I can ask Trent to join me and answer your question if he may.
Yeah. That's okay.
No, we do not know the answer to that right now.
Right.
So,
All right, thank you, thank you.
But we can ask.
All right.
okay, let's ask. I don't have any problem supporting it, but I would like to know where they're falling on this as well. It looks like the League of Cities is on board, so.
Great. Thank you, Martha.
Okay.
Commissioner Savas, you had a comment?
Yeah, well, one question and a concern. So I'm just, when these things come to us, when is the time ripe for us to opine? You know, so we already heard maybe AOC ought to have an opportunity to jump in on that, get some better idea of what those rate increases would be, as opposed to supporting something carte blanche as things develop. Even sometimes when we know the number, It could change, right? Because we know it's very dynamic. And so I'm always inclined to get as close to the final product before, at least personally, before putting my yes or no or opposition or position on a particular bill. So in general, my question to you is, ballpark, when do we think the time would be more ripe where this bill is going to either be approved or disapproved, or get a hearing or not get a hearing?
So we're on that ticking clock of waiting to the early March window of when the first deadlines are for committees to have to hear bills. I think that the more support that starts to mount up for this, for any issue, is going to help it gain the traction that it needs to get to a place where it will get a hearing, we'll get that support, we'll start to move forward. I think what you're seeing here is logos coming in from counties that have seen the RV problem in excess, and Clackamas County is one of those counties where y'all have experienced this quite a bit. And so the Association of Oregon Counties, I know they've mentioned this bill to me, I just don't know their position on it. But I do think that, with our logo on it, and we could keep it to just the numbers that are here. If it's conditional on not any higher than the numbers you see in this packet, that is a fine position to be in from Clackamas County's perspective. So we can be supportive up to this amount, if that's maybe what you're trying to get to. And if it goes, above that number, we would come back.
So just a quick follow, so we can actually take our logo off if it goes sideways.
Correct.
Correct.
Well, we definitely have a need. I think that we need a funding stream to keep up with the abandoned RVs and disrepair, and that shouldn't, how we do that, there's got to be a mechanism. So if this equates out and the financial revenue that they anticipate is adequate, or hopefully it's not, doesn't over-collect, I don't know if that analysis has really been done to assess what that would be. And the other, not to say irony, but the other unfortunate thing is most of the abandoned RVs aren't registered anyhow, so, or the people who own them that are registered too probably aren't going to pay it anyhow. It's going to be the good actors are going to be actually paying the bill. That's all I have, Chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Salvis. And I'd entertain a motion on the board's position on this bill. Commissioner West.
Just to clarify, are we taking a vote on the board's position on this bill specifically today?
Yes, staff needs direction if you support the bill, and we'll add the county's logo.
Ooh, I don't, okay. I mean, I don't know if there's gonna be further discussion. I don't, with the information, I know exactly where I'm at today on this one. And I have the exact same thoughts as Commissioner Salvis just reiterated, so I won't say those again. But I don't know if I'm ready to vote for supporting a bill that would increase fees to our constituents right now. That's where I'm at. I don't know if any other thoughts. I'm told I could be persuaded. We could have a further conversation. I know that, but that's kind of, Chair, where I'm at with it. I don't know if I'm there right now. I don't know if I feel like I have enough to make a position stance today, even though that's what we're looking to do.
If I may, excuse me, Chair and Commissioners, but if I may, like the value of the bill, as I understand it, and why we think it's fruitful to bring it to your attention, and why one of your departments who runs the County Parks Program is supportive of this bill, is in addition to the RV fee, where we see some of these, troubled situations where we have to remove those. There's also the additional fee to registration that brings money to both state parks and county parks. And so it's the increase of a fee that provides program funding to county parks as well. It's not just the RV mechanism, it's additionally the program mechanism. So it does support funding into the county's budget to perform parks work. So that, I want to flag that it's above and beyond simply the RV issue at large.
Yeah, I think just some of the research is kind of looking into it. It is a pretty significant increase. Just to kind of give you an idea, a motorhome that's 30 feet long, the rate was about $126. It's gone to $354. It's pretty significant. That was on a motorhome. On a travel trailer, it's gone from $81 to $265. And when you look at the overall increase, the Oregon Parks Rec District, and correct me if I'm wrong on these numbers, but it will bring in about $1.87 million. the split on that is 55% to Oregon Parks Rec District and 45% to the county. And I was a little bit curious, and I don't know if you have an answer to this, but I was wondering how those dollars are split amongst the counties. Is it based on population? Is there any basis for what the county might be seeing as an increase? Because I did want to also acknowledge that I talked to some county staff about the cost for removing these is even more than I thought. These dilapidated motorhomes that are a huge cost. So Trent, do you kind of have any idea?
Yes, thank you. So again, there are two fees. I'm going to try to answer your question with that breakdown. So one fee is the general registration fee that gets distributed to the parks, $55.45, as you pointed out. And the park distribution into counties on that registration fee side is, it is formula. It's by population, by parks, by usage, how many parks do you have, things like that. So there is a formula in there, and I can get that to the board in an email after this discussion. On the other side, for the registration, or for the disposal fee specifically, there is no program that exists like that yet. And so probably what would happen is a rules process to determine how that is set up. But the way it's described in here and in the bill is that it would create a reimbursement program up to about, they anticipate, 900 potential disposals or removals. The program sunsets after 10 years. Of course, to your point, Commissioner Savas, 2 legislators from now could change that to sunset 10 years later. But for now, it's a 10-year program. As you mentioned, Chair Roberts, it is expensive to remove these, and so I think that is an estimate based on a certain amount of, I think, a $5,000 expectation, but I think we've seen some that go well above $5,000 in some scenarios. So that's an estimate, but it would be a reimbursement program. So we go remove something, then we apply for the reimbursement. There's a pool of money that lives within this fund that we would be able to access.
Great. That was helpful, Trent. Thank you. So I'm kind of back. Is there a motion? Anybody want to?
I have a question, just one other question. So has anyone evaluated the actual need? I mean, what is currently, how much is jurisdictions throughout the state spending on RV removal? And so are we going to make a dent in it? Is this going to be I guess that's the math was trying to convey earlier. I can see the numbers, but I don't see how they relate to the need.
I can ask that question to get more information from the Oregon Recreation Parks Association, ORPA. I can ask them what their analysis is and get that back to you.
Right. And when does the AOC committees next meet to discuss some of the bills that are on the table?
Monday?
Monday? I just looked it up.
I wonder if there's value in just
Holding.
deferring till next week, if it's Monday that AOC talks about it.
Anything else, Paula?
That's it.
Okay, Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, that was going to be exactly my suggestion. I looked up to see, we'll be meeting, I'm planning on being there. Let me just run it by and see where it lands with the rest of the organization. I do see that Jackson County has put their seal on it. That's a pretty conservative county, but they're probably dealing with a lot of issues with that. So, but let's run it by the association first, because individual counties are important, but if you had the association's backing, that would be even more important.
Thank you, Martha. Commissioner West?
Thank you, Chair. What is the timeline? Can you break down the timelines? Because I know like you have a hearing, you have that, is that March or April? Is that next? Can you explain that to publicly? What we're looking at timeline-wise?
So any bill that's introduced has to have a hearing within its committee by a date certain, and I don't have the date in front of me right now, but it's early to mid-March is when the first committee deadline would be. And then about 2 weeks after that, it has to pass out of its chamber and go to the next chamber. So this bill has roughly a month and a half to go before it needs to have some time in front of the committee that it's been assigned to.
Have we heard from Multnomah County on this at all?
I have not personally heard from Multnomah County on this yet.
Okay. Washington County signed on to it looks like.
Yeah.
I know that we want to make a vote today. I just don't think I'm ready. Maybe next week, but like, I'm just not ready to make a vote today. I mean, I will, if we have to vote today, I'll vote no, just because I don't know or I'll abstain, but I just want to let my colleagues know where I'm at right now.
All right, thank you, Commissioner West. Gary?
Chair, I suggest we defer this and bring it back later.
Yep, I agree. So there's no motion. We'll table it for today, and we'll move forward. Thank you both, Tanya and Trent. Gary, what's the next item?
Thank you. They'll both stay at the table for the next legislative update item, Willamette Falls Locks Authority funding. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so we're seeking your direction again on a request to support House Bill 2574 by the Willamette Falls Locks Authority. The Willamette Falls Locks, as you know, is within the city of West Lynn in Clackamas County on the Willamette River, and it provides a historic, economic, and recreational connection between the upper and lower Willamette River. Access to these significant connections has been absent since the closure of the locks in 2011 due to safety issues. Clackamas County has supported efforts to repair and reopen the locks since 2014. They are owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Seismic repairs required before ownership transfer are nearly complete. The Locks Authority would use this requested funding to focus on repairs to the operational status of the facility. Repairing the canal and locks will preserve the oldest and most intact bypass canal and leaf gate locks in the nation and set an example for sensitive care and operations of historic inland waterway navigation sites. So the bill proposes two things. Number one, modify provisions related to finances, public contracting authority, and composition of the Willamette Falls Locks Authority. And number two, it'll authorize $11.431 million in lottery bond proceeds to the Willamette Falls Locks Authority for restoration of the Willamette Falls Navigation Canal and locks. Public hearing has not yet been scheduled, and the requests are occurring to build coalition support, and PGA recommends the county support House Bill 2574. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Colleagues, any comments? Martha, go ahead.
Yeah, we've been working on this for how long, Trent? Since 2003, even before you were here.
Even before I was
Yeah.
here.
So I would suggest we stay the course, but I do have a question. I know that Chair Smith had been on that board. Do we have a representative on that board right now from the county?
No.
No. Okay. Is that something that we need to do you think?
As a board, you'll do that when you discuss committee assignments in the next few
Okay,
weeks.
all right. So in the next few weeks, we'll know that. But I'd be willing to make a motion to support this.
Second.
Okay?
Right.
Okay, so I move we, support HB 2574, Willamette Falls Locks funding request.
All right, Commissioner Schrader has moved to support House Bill 2574, the Willamette Falls Locks Authority. It's been seconded by Commissioner Savast. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner West. Aye. Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. The motion passes 5-0. And Gary, what is next, sir?
Thank you. Thank you, PGA team. Next, 2025 Association of Oregon Counties dues. Commissioners, Clackamas County is a member of the Association of Oregon Counties, and you pay a membership fee for the privilege of being a member of that organization. The dues for Clackamas County to be a member of AOC in 2025 is $139,594.26. I'm seeking your direction if you wish to remain a member of AOC and direct me to pay the dues. We do have this budgeted. It's paid for from county general funds. It's approximately a 3% increase from the dues from the prior year. So seeking a motion to approve, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
So moved.
Second.
Right. Commissioner West has moved to cover the fines for the AOC fines, not the fines, but the annual general dues. And Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, would you do us a favor and do the poll?
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West. Aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Gary?
Thank you. Next, review of your board business meeting agenda for this Thursday, February 6, 2025. You have a public hearing, which is an annexation of a residence into the Clackamas River Water District. You have the consent agenda for both Clackamas County and Water Environment Services. As a reminder, if you have questions on any item on the consent agenda, please let me know prior to the business meeting so staff may answer that for you. That is the review of the agenda. Back to you, Chair.
Great. Thank you, Gary. And just my fellow colleagues, several weeks ago, we discussed a new approach on our Thursday's business meeting consent agenda, and I think the new process is working pretty well and is highly efficient. Administrator Schmidt and I recently discussed releasing staff from attending the business meetings in person to address potential questions related to the consent agenda. We had staff a lot of times when we were not having them come before us and testify, and as we agreed before, if commissioners have any questions about the consent agenda or a plan to pull an item, please let Administrator Schmidt know at least 24 hours notice before our weekly business meeting. With that notice, the proper staff will be in the hearing room to answer your questions. So we're interested in keeping our meetings efficient and doing the public's business in the most transparent way. And just want to thank my colleagues for kind of helping with a lot of the transition process that we moving forward, and appreciate their help and support. With that being said, Gary, what's next?
Thank you, Chair. Next is Advisory Board and Commission appointments. You have several of them. Andrew will walk through those for you. Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 5 appointments to consider today for advisory boards and commissions. The first is for the Aging Services Advisory Council, which is staffed by the Health, Housing, and Human Services Department, and currently has 4 members whose 3-year terms need to be renewed. All of these members have served their most recent term admirably and are willing to serve another 3-year term. The recommendation is as follows: Ann Meter to a 4th term ending 2027. Carol Bernard to a 3rd term ending 2027. Daniel Hoshin to a 4th term ending 2027. And Marjorie Lorton to a 4th term ending 2027. The Board of County Commissioners could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
All right, do any commissioners have any comments or concerns about the recommended appointments? May I have a motion?
I move to approve Ann Meter, Carol Bernhard, Daniel Hoshin, and Margene Lorton to the Aging Services Advisory Council.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Savas, who has moved to approve the appointment of Ann Meter, Carol Bernhard, Daniel Horstman, and Marjorie Lorton. And Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. I also want to just extend a big thanks to all of those citizens for their participation and helping us address a much needed help in that area. So thank you very much for your time. And with that being said, move into
There's several more ABCs, Chair. Andrew will just keep going through them, please.
So I will turn it over to Andrew then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second of 5 today for consideration is the Community Action Board, which is staffed by Health, Housing, and Human Services, which currently has 1 member whose 3-year term needs to be renewed. This member has served their most recent term admirably and is willing to serve another 3-year term. The recommendation is Paul Edgar to a 3rd term ending 2027. The Board of County Commissioners could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any discussion further on that?
Chair, I move to approve Paul Edgar to the Community Action Board and thank him for his service.
Second.
And it's been moved by Commissioner Savas to approve Paul Edgar as the appointment to the board, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. And what's next, Andrew?
Mr. Chair, the 3rd nomination to consider today is for the Clackamas Workforce Partnership. The Clackamas Workforce Partnership is notifying the Board of County Commissioners of an appointment of a workforce representative. Recruitment for this position was not open to the public, as the position is open only to leadership of community-based organizations that have demonstrated experience and expertise in addressing the employment needs of individuals with barriers to employment per the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. The following has been appointed: Nadja Salzman to a first term ending 2028. The board is asked to ratify the appointment, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion, input? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Chair, I move to ratify the appointment of Nadja Salzman to the Workforce Partnership.
I'll second that.
And Commissioner Savas has moved to appoint Nadja Salzman to the Workforce Partnership, second by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The fourth for consideration today is the Veterans Advisory Council, staffed by Health, Housing, and Human Services, which currently has 6 members whose 2-year terms need to be renewed. All of these members have served their most recent term admirably and are willing to serve another 3-year term. The recommendation is as follows: Tracy Bogard to a 6th term ending 2027. Lori Kimmel to a 4th term ending 2027. Betty Fish Ferguson to a 2nd term ending 2027. Carol Bernhard to a 2nd term ending 2027. John Budayo to a 2nd term ending 2027. And Donnie Hedlund to a 2nd term ending 2027. The board could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
Commissioners, discussion? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Chair, I move that we approve the nominations of Tracy Bogard, Lori Kimmel, Betty Fish Ferguson, Carol Bernard, John Badayo, Donnie Hedlund to the Veterans Advisory Council.
Second. Second.
Commissioner West has identified the individuals for the Veterans Council. As stated, it's been seconded by Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, will you call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The final nomination for consideration by the board today is for the Enhanced Law Enforcement Advisory Board, staffed by the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, which currently has 1 opening on their commission due to a term expiration. Recruitment opened to the public in September of 2024 and closed in November of 2024. Recruitment took place by press release and the county website, and through this recruitment process, 3 applications were received and 1 is recommended for appointment. The recommendation is as follows: Robert Schmelzer to a 1st term ending 2027. The board could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
Any comments, commissioners, input? May I have a motion?
Chair, I move to appoint Robert Schmelzer to the Enhanced Law Enforcement Advisory Board.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas has moved to appoint Robert Schmelzer to the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And Gary, what is next?
Next is Supportive Housing Services in a Holistic Context update by Commissioner Savas. You discussed doing a potential letter last week. This is a memo from Commissioner and a discussion to be led by Commissioner Savas. Go ahead, please.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Colleagues, I brought this up last week, and in turn, again, no rush to a letter, but I thought I would kind of better outline what our goals are here and kind of identify some of the challenges. So if you've read all of that, ideally, I'm hoping that if there is agreement that this is a good strategy and good guidelines to factor in to make sure that we can include our state and federal partners where necessary, and to help figure out the gaps or identify the gaps in our continuum of care for the folks the supportive housing services are designed to serve, most especially Population A. It just seems that from all the dialogue I've witnessed and listened to in the metro setting on these meetings, that some of these gaps haven't really been adequately discussed, other than a little bit of that as far as like the outpatient care, a little bit from certain CBOs that provide that service. But it needs, there's some gaps in there for the populations that, where that service is not really adequately or necessarily appropriate to meet the needs of those individuals. So that's my outline. I would just like to just kind of have just a short amount of dialogue and see if there's any changes, edits, ideas about the outline, and we could perhaps craft a letter if there's agreement based on these principles.
Commissioners, thoughts, input?
The most relative piece of this are the last four bullets, to keep in mind. And if there is consensus, we can move forward with a letter. I think that if there is a goal of Metro to get something on the ballot for November, that means that we've only got 4 or 5 months, 6 months of work. And so the sooner we get moving to get a composition of a work group or work groups, and we signal that, the better off we are, as opposed to running the risk of delays.
Commissioner Fireside.
Thank you. So I guess my hesitation about this is perhaps my misunderstanding of what the work group is actually doing. So advising them to expand it to federal and state partnerships seems a little premature and outside of the scope of what they're trying to achieve. So for that reason, I won't be signing on to the letter.
Any other comments? Commissioner West.
I was going to bring this up later. The Metro President's Work Group for SHS, I don't know if my colleagues are aware, but President Peterson has asked me to co-chair that work group with her at her prerogative. And so I do plan on, it's going to be a heavy lift and a ton of work, but I'm going to, wanted to let my colleagues know that I will be working with President Peterson on this. And I think that's important perspective as we talk about this letter. I'm not trying to convolute things, but I thought I should bring that up and get my colleagues' thoughts. I have some other thoughts around that I won't get into. I agree in principle that we need a holistic approach. Commissioner Savas, I'm trying to understand, do you see Metro having the jurisdiction or the scope of practice to engage these other large partners in this capacity? And I'm just trying to, can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I think my purpose here is, as I've stated before, I think we've had agreement, as I listened to each of us over the period of a few weeks here that we've been working together, agree that there is a gap in services, mental health and drug addiction services that are best provided at the state. There's a lack of funding that the supportive housing services cannot provide financially, monetarily, and the need is across our state, and half our county is not, benefit from these dollars because we're rural, we're outside of Metro's boundaries. So we know that there's a huge need for state beds for mental health. We know that there's a huge need out there for drug addiction, detox services, and all of that. And yet they're talking about compressing the amount or collecting less of these dollars to accomplish that. And that's been missing from the discussion. And so if we're going to be held to solving and helping people off the street with these supportive services dollars, I don't know how best to bring to attention, because if we don't, then I think the approach is broken, in the sense that if we don't have the services for those particular areas where there's a gap currently, then how do you write a measure? How do you adequately write a measure if you don't factor all of that into the measure? So it just hasn't been discussed adequately. I don't hear the Metro councilors talking about this and identifying that. And in a conversation last week, I think there was actually, not with one particular Metro councilor, some acknowledgement of that. I'm not saying agreement. I'll just say there was acknowledged that there is a gap. So I'm just trying to bring to attention that it ought to be a part of their dialogue. And without the state there, I don't think how we can solely, as a metro region, just pretend to solve it for the entire state. Not that that's our goal, but at least for the metro region, we're being held to an implementation plan to help population A, but we don't have all the tools to get there, and no discussion on creating tools to get there.
Thank you, Paul. Commissioner West?
I, in principle, totally agree with you. Are we in this letter stating that, and maybe I'm reading into this too far, that we're not supportive of the task force, this group being developed as is, and we want to see it expanded? What you're talking about reminds me a lot of the summit that we held, but on a larger level here in Clackamas County last September that was wildly successful. And to be honest, like, I agree with everything you said, except I just don't know if Metro is that convener. I also think that the current federal administration is making drastic changes, and they probably don't align with the type of policy decisions that have historically been made out of Oregon and the metro area. So there'll be some tension there, to say the least. But maybe are they the right convener, Commissioner? Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that Metro is necessarily the right convener, but I think also I'm mindful that the signaling, the words we heard from the state is, we don't need to be involved with the metro area because they have supporting housing services, so therefore,
That's
you
true.
know, we're going to have this disconnect. I think the only way to bridge that, somehow we need to bridge that gap and get them at the table. And maybe this elected official group, I'm proposing here, the first group just of elected officials only, we can bring to bear our legislators and the state, I think, and bring them to the table and figure out a solution so that they are at the table. And if not, then we can understand why they're not at the table and maybe how to proceed. I just think there's value in having an initial group to get this, how to figure out how to get the table set. I think that's the goal I'm trying to accomplish here.
I think the only, sorry, can I?
Yes,
Thank
Commissioner
you.
West, go ahead.
I think the only, and maybe it's just more of a technical thing and the scope is, yes, I think that conversation is way overdue. Yes, I think the state of Oregon has way underperformed in its ability to be supportive in these issues. And a lot of the burden is on us local governments to figure out this massive crisis that impacts the whole state. That's tough. We've spoke to that. Yes, we need the feds' involvement. We need all hands on deck. This is a big deal. But structurally, how this would be convened through Metro is like, unless you have another idea. In principle, I agree. In practicality, and how this would play out is where I'm hung up. And I'm not trying to. I mean, we agree, but I'm just trying to figure out how we get there.
Well, the other option for convening could be the District 8 could convene it.
That's true through AOC,
Through AOC.
as a neutral party with the counties.
Yep.
That's not a bad idea. I know Julie Brim Edwards is now the new president. I'm the vice chair. She's the chair. I'm the vice chair on that. It's through the neutral party of the local AOC. Maybe we reach out to AOC and have them partner with us on a letter.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get the state's attention that we have
Yeah.
a gap here and get them at the table, because if their position is we're going to leave it alone because they got the money, they're not seeing the fact that we actually have some gaps.
Great. Commissioner Schrader.
I like the idea of convening it with District 8, actually. So
And then we could invite Metro to that then.
Invite Metro to it.
invite Metro to it, but yeah.
Yeah, myself and Commissioner Brim Edwards would set the agenda for District 8.
Because you're the
yeah.
vice chair.
I'm the vice chair, she's the chair. and this is probably the topic that we're all going, that we were going to choose to address anyways, and we often do convening there with a lot of legislators throughout the metro area come, and we could expand that a little bit bigger. Maybe it's a good idea. Do we need to just change this letter up and bring, what do you think?
Well, it's not a letter, it's just more of a, right now, it's just more of a conversation starter, just kind of outline our concerns. So if, Commissioner West, being your role as vice chair of the District 8, can you maybe inquire to that and see
Yeah.
if AOC would be willing, and we can get that underway as soon as possible?
If the board would like me to.
And maybe we could signal to Metro Council, ask them if they'd be willing to attend.
Yes. I'm
Yeah, I
willing to
think,
do that if the board wants me to.
I just want to acknowledge Paul for this work that you've brought forward. I agree with a lot of the points, and there are some others I have some question about, but I think really kind of agree of Commissioner West being the co-chair of this work group, which is great to hear, and Martha's kind of conversation too about AOC and maybe how we can kind of bring that all together. So maybe at this particular point, Paul, if it's something you agree with, is maybe we just table it for right now and kind of give Commissioner West, and I know you're really involved in AOC, to see if we can kind of bring it back in that form.
Yep, just trying to nudge us along.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You put a lot of work into that, so I want to thank you, and I think we kind of have a somewhat a consensus
I
here. Does
like
that sound
District
good?
8. Yeah.
All right, nice job. All right, let's see, and I'm going to turn it back over to County Administrator Gary Schmidt.
Final item today is Commissioner Communications, Chair.
Okay. Just on the communication issue, before we begin, I'd like to just remind everybody that we have several policy sessions scheduled for this morning. And in the interest of time, would my colleagues agree to skip Commissioner Communication today, proceed directly to the first policy session?
I
Fine with
concur.
that.
Is that a great? I'm
Really?
kind of seeing a consensus there. Thank you. No further business? Yes, I'm sorry, Commissioner
Really,
West.
really quick, and I know we're short on time, but on chairing, I just wanted to speak to actually chairing that task force really quick.
Yes,
And give
yeah,
you guys a
great.
heads up. So meeting with Lynn Peterson today to go over kind of the scope of that, what that looks like. And my other ask is, traditionally on this, it would have, every county would have 2 representatives. But if I'm going to be the co-chair of this task force, I'm going to ask if maybe I can have another commissioner, because then I can focus on chairing, and then another commissioner could completely start to do the engagement that maybe I wouldn't have the bandwidth to do as a chair. And so that will be part of my ask today, to try to make sure that we have the appropriate representation on this task group moving forward. And I would be willing to take recommendations from my colleagues here on if I can get that approved and agreed to. Who would like to join me on this task group with Chair Peterson and the rest of the metro area? I'm sorry, that's my, I know that you guys, I don't know if that's
I
now.
suggest you bring that back next week, because we've not noticed it, and that gives time for your colleagues to think about it.
Okay, so think about it. And I'll have that conversation with President Peterson today, and then probably I will even get the thumbs up to thumbs down by then, whether or not we need to do that, but
Yeah, give us
put
all a
that out there
chance
for
to
you
think
guys.
about it.
Yeah, thank you, that's all I have.
Great. All right. So, thank you, Commissioners. If there's no further business, this concludes issues and updates.